The third speaker is Matsiev from Finland. He's the editor of Caucasus Center. Please, the floor is yours.
I'm a freelance journalist, and currently I'm residing in Finland. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this Congress. I think it's very important, and in fact, I think such type of meetings where many peoples of the Caucasus, of the Northern Caucasus, can meet and discuss their things and problems should be, which we have a lot, should be taking place on a regular basis. And I think that it's very important that the North Caucasians were allowed to speak for themselves. Unfortunately, I can see that even this conference has been organized in Turkey by a very respected organization which does its utmost to help refugees here. I would like just to say that the speeches which have been made so far, I'm very impressed with them. I'm really honored to take part in this particular discussion. Inshallah, I think these good words and good speeches, they will bear good fruits and will have deep roots and will help us in future. And, well, I come from Finland currently. I've been living here in Turkey, and I'm very happy to return here and see how the Turkey actually flourishes now here. I'm very happy to be here once again, meet my brothers and sisters and the people whom I knew. But I would like to mention that when I moved to Finland, and I've been granted asylum there, and I met many Chechen families living there. All in all, there is about 200 families living there, well, they are refugees, and a lot of them actually came from Turkey as well. One thing I noticed in Finland is that it was very easy to relate and communicate with the people there, because we share the same pain inflicted by the Russian aggression, and Finland has its share of war with Russia. So I found it interesting also that to note that Chechen resistance leader Hasan Israilov has been leading uprising in the 1940s in Chechnya. He mentioned Finland, in fact, and said that when he wrote a letter to the communist leaders and warned them of upcoming resistance, he told them that they're going to face this new Finland in the Caucasus, and he referred to the heavy losses which Russians incurred during the fightings there. I must say I'm not the historian, I'm a journalist, and my field of work is internet. So I hope there will be more educated historians and professionals in this field who will take their time to investigate the history of Caucasus properly. Times and again I heard that people saying that, in fact, the history of Northern Caucasus is being hidden from the peoples, from the local population and the Caucasians themselves. And from what I found on the internet, information regarding history of the Northern Caucasus really is not systematized, not organized properly. And I even noticed that the dates of certain events can vary in different sources. So from my research, I was able to find quite a lot of information about the Union of Allied Mountaineers, the state organized in the eve of February Revolution in Russia. For 47 years, the Northern Caucasus has been occupied by the Tsarist forces at that time, and the occupation has been brutal. And it started actually with the deportation of 1.5 or 1.5 million of local indigenous population to Anatolia and Balkans. So most of these deported people has perished during the transfer, and that's how it started. And what awaited people further has been horrible as well. And the Caucasians never ceased to resist the occupation. And at any opportunity, they were stirring up uprisings and fighting the Russian regime, be it Tsarist or a communist regime. So this happened in 1877, 1878, during the Turkish-Russian War, and during the Russian-Japanese War, and 1905 as well. So I would like to just read the words of Przymacho Kosok. He was the second head of the Union of Allied Mountaineers. He was describing the situation, how it was during the Tsarist rule prior to the revolution. And so he wrote, "At the end of May 1864, a decree by the Tsar was published stating that the inviolability of the religion, adats, lands and woods is being preserved unshakably and in perpetuum for the peoples of the Northern Caucasus. But the Tsar's decrees, and as the other Russian promises, has been violated quite soon. And it turned out that instead of the inviolability of adats, the military government has been installed, and the military courts were introduced. And the interesting thing about the military courts is that they were reserved only for the indigenous populations, the settlers, the Russian settlers, the numerous Russian settlers which were introduced to the lands of the Caucasus. They were tried in the regular courts, in the public courts. But on the other hand, the indigenous population constantly tried in the military courts, and the court sessions usually ended in death sentences for them. So the religious influence and freedom, he continues, of consciousness were limited. The inviolability of the lands and woods also turned out to be the empty promise. Hundreds of thousands of hectares of the fine land and vast stretches, untouched forests, were either given to the high-placed persons and Russian peasant settlers, as well as to the retired soldiers, or simply declared to be state property. The Cossack settlements has been also introduced, and they were set up that way to wedge between the villages of the Chechen and English region, and they were all often cause for the quarrels. So in the wake of the Russian Revolution, the new Russian government has made big promises, and promised the right for self-determination for each peoples of the Northern Caucasus. The other interesting thing is that one of the first decrees they made was to abolish the disciplinary code and authority of the officers in the Russian army, who was been at that time fighting on the southern fronts, and there were literally hundreds of thousands of troops there. So after this decree, the Russian army started to disintegrate and move into the Northern Caucasus. And there they organized bands and they organized groups and started attacking local population. So it's in this environment that the intelligentsia and intelligence of the officers and other people in the Northern Caucasus started to organize. And in the end, they come up with they decided to hold a congress, and it was held in May of 1970. In May of 1970, there were about 500 delegates representing different peoples populating the territory from the Caspian Sea to the Black Sea, as well as observers from the neighboring countries, namely Georgia and Azerbaijan. During these 5 days in which the conference took place, it was decided to organize the Union of Allied Mountaineers, or sometimes it's also called the Union of the United Peoples of the Northern Caucasus. And there was also established a central national committee, which was a governing organ of the union. And this, of course, was a statehood based on secular principles. As we will see further, on the second Congress, they accepted a brief constitution of this state as well. But there were interesting developments prior to the second Congress, which took place on the 18th of September. There were 2 prominent religious authorities in the Dagestan and Chechnya, and they were Najmuddin Gatsinsky and Uzun Haji. They were voicing the opinion of the great parts of the population which were struggling and putting their efforts to organize the state on the same principles as Imam Shamil has it. So the principles should have been, the government principles should have been based on the Sharia law. At the same time, before the second Congress, these 2 people, Najmuddin and Uzun Haji, they organized a meeting. They organized a meeting in the same place where this second Congress should have taken place, and they gathered literally thousands of their supporters. And in that gathering, these people who gathered there, they were all waiting and calling for an immediate proclamation of independence of the Caucasus and restoration of the legacy of Imam Shamil, and the same state should have been called in their opinion. So at that meeting, Najmuddin Gatsinsky has been named Imam of the soon-to-be proclaimed state. There was no opposition to this, and he was proclaimed Imam, in fact, during this meeting of these supporters of Uzun Haji and Najmuddin. Later, when the Central National Committee of the United Union of Allied Mountaineers gathered, and they got to know about the meeting. These thousands of people gathered in this place where the Congress have taken place. So they decided that the Congress should be moved to Vedeno, and they sent some delegates to this meeting, and together with some people from this group of thousands, they returned to Vedeno and held their Congress there. On this Congress, there's been several major important decisions been taken. So as such, a temporary constitution has been approved, and it contained the several basic articles. And the most interesting articles were 1 and 2, in which identified the state as the political union of North Caucasians.
Mr. Matsiev, the last 5 minutes.
Okay. So, I will just highlight the important facts in the history of this Union of Allied Mountaineers. So, on the 4th March of 1918, when the World War concluded and there was a peace treaty signed by the by the world powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, Bulgaria, and the Soviet government also. So it was decided that at that time, some Turkish troops were present, in fact, on the territory of Northern Caucasus. So after the World War has ended, on May 11th, 1980, North Caucasian government proclaimed independence. The Declaration of Independence contained the clause which described the territorial claims of the to be established state. The territorial boundaries of the new state are: in the north, the geographical boundaries which formally define the oblasts and provinces of Dagestan, Stavropol, Kuban, and the Black Sea region and the Russian Empire. In the west, the Black Sea, and in the east, the Caspian Sea. In the south, the boundaries will be fixed by the agreement with the Transcaucasian government. Some prominent figures has been leading the government of the Union of Allied Mountaineers were Abdul Mejid Tapachirmoyev, Basangirey Jabagi, Gaidar Bamad, Shimada Kosok, Abdul Rashid Katanov, Ahmed Salikov, Ali Khan Kantamir, Aintek Namitov. The one important thing to note also that this state was supported by the foreign powers. It's been recognized by the by the Ottoman Empire at that time, and actually there was troops sent to support the resistance to white and to the Bolsheviks and white armies. It must be said that the Union of Allied Mountaineers, in my opinion, were not able to concentrate on the internal politics, and they paid more attention to in finding support in Europe and Ottoman Empire, and somehow they left out thousands of those people who's been supporting Najmuddin Gatsinsky and Uzun Khaji. They were not able to draw these people to their side somehow. And in the end, in 1990, when the huge Russian armies of the volunteer army of Denikin attacked the newly established states of Union of Allied Mountaineers. The resistance, it was not able to resist this. They were not able to resist this army, and but of course the invaders suffered heavy losses, but as well as the Caucasians, of course, incurred losses in this struggle. But in the end, they were able to occupy the territory of the Northern Caucasus, and the Union of Allied Mountaineers basically ceased to exist at this moment, and the parliament which it had has been disintegrated, and that's basically how it ended for the Union of Allied Mountaineers. Some points regarding the establishment of the Northern Caucasus Emirate. The two leaders, Najmuddin Gatsinsky and Uzun Haji, commanded substantial forces from among the Muslim population of Dagestan and Chechnya, but which apparently these forces, they did not play any considerable part in the political affairs of the Union of Allied Mountaineers. After Denikin's invasion into the territories of Chechnya and Ingushetia, these forces were split, and as Najmuddin Gatsinsky preferred not to resist the White Army, but to support them and in their struggle against the Bolsheviks. Uzun Haji, however, considered volunteer army to be occupants and called local population to fight against them. After Denikin was able to occupy the territory of the Northern Caucasus and establish military control, the split has been finalized between Gatsinsky and Uzun Haji. And Uzun Haji was declared an enemy by the supporters of Gatsinsky. In September 1990, after armed uprisings in Dagestan in June and in Chechnya and Ingushetia in August, forces loyal to Uzun Haji liberated the mountainous areas of Dagestan, Chechnya, Ossetia, and Kabarda from the Russian volunteer army and announced establishment of the North Caucasus Emirate under the protection of the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed VI. And the ties were established with the Kabardinian and Ossetian resistant groups, and as well as in Georgia, which recognized the Northern Caucasus Emirate and its authority. In February of 1920, Denikin was forced to retreat from the territory of the Northern Caucasus Emirate. The Second Red Army came to the North Caucasus as the liberator of the mountaineers. That happened because the Bolsheviks, of course, also fought with the white armies. So the population regarded them, some part of the population at least, regarded them as liberators. The Bolsheviks, who had previously recognized the government of Uzun Haji and had contacts with them, and recognized it de facto and provided them with the financial assistance and fight against Denikin, and even handed over command of the so-called Fifth Red Army, commanded by Nikolai Gikalo, to the North Caucasus Emirate, has now eliminated, after they've been able to invade with their armies, eliminated the Northern Caucasus Emirate and offered Uzun Haji the honorary post of Mufti of the peoples of the Northern Caucasus. However, in 3 months, Uzun Haji died. In August of 1920, mass armed uprisings took place as well in the mountainous areas of Chechnya and Ingushetia and Dagestan under the leadership of Imam Shamin's grandson, Said Bek, against the Soviets. The uprising lasted exactly 1 year until September 1921, but it was in the end suppressed by the Red Army forces who has been transferred there in mass. I think I will skip to my conclusion. One may ask about the reasons of defeat of yet another attempt by the Northern Caucasians to unite and proclaim their sovereignty. In my opinion, the noble beginnings of the people behind Union of Allied Mountaineers and had almost everything to have their success in the end, but they even had the unanimous support of the foreign powers. However, there were too much pressure put on this young state, and it had to struggle on too many outer fronts at once. Eventually, the occupation of the Russian White Armies and their fixed aspiration to destroy any type of independent union of the Northern Caucasian people led to disintegration of the Union of Allied Mountaineers. In addition, a lack of modern weapons and associated military training has also contributed to the military defeat. In fact, the authorities of the Union of Allied Montagnais strived heavily to obtain weapons and support, and to also negotiate with the White armies and Bolsheviks, but it didn't succeed. The Russians were too bent on destroying the new state. So the Northern Caucasus Emirate had its root, the work of Uzun Haji, has its root in the work of Sheikh Mansour and Imam Shamil. However, we must remember that at that time this new force was introduced on the Northern Caucasus, and it was Bolsheviks, and their propaganda was very, very influential on the population there, and they were able to draw a lot of healthy elements of the society to their side.
Mr. Matsiev, could you finish your words, please?
Yes, so, and they were disrupting basically the unity of the Muslims there. So it was a problem there, and a lot of people have chosen to believe in their demagogy. I would like to conclude with the following statement. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who placed all the numerous peoples of the Northern Caucasus on such a tight stretch of land. And I doubt very much that the reason behind this decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to make us disunited and weak. And in fact, I'm sure of the contrary. We must understand that our common religion, Islam, is the definite answer for our problems and our weaknesses. And it is given to us by God. So Islam will enable us to transcend our differences and yet to preserve our differences. And it will make these differences contribute to the strength and versatility of the united North Caucasian nation. Our ancestors understood this well, and in the times of Imam Shamil and Sheikh Mansour, they have always come to the same approach when dealing with the Russian occupation, and it included unification, mutual support, and common struggle. When we look at our history, and we can see that unification and coming to terms have, however difficult it might seem, is the only way for us it's the only way out for us. And otherwise, our descendants are bound to go through the new deportations and new bloodshed. I conclude with this. Thank you very much.
Sayın İslam Matsiev bize
We would like to thank Mr. İslam, and we also share his sentiments, especially his closing remarks. Yes, the troubles that are being experienced in the Caucasus, despite a history full of struggle, is lacking a united Islamic approach, and if we cannot establish this, then future sufferings will ensue. So yes, there are ethnical differences and many other differences, but we should become an ummah and overcome these barriers, and hopefully the glorious Allah will enable us to be a part of this ummah.